be really neat. We're going to have a conversation and just get to know each other a little bit. We're really glad that you decided to watch what we have to say. Um, I'm very curious to hear what Jane has to say about her experiences, and hopefully we'll all learn a little bit more about each other and talk about gentle parenting. My name is Alison Smith. I am a parenting coach, and my real big passion is supporting parents and learning all about gentle parenting. So I'd like to pass it over to Jane, and she can tell you a little bit about herself.
Hi, Alison. It's so good to be here today with you. We've been waiting to do this for a while now. And I'm Jane Evans. I'm a trauma parenting specialist, so I have a particular interest in supporting parents who've maybe had quite difficult childhoods themselves, or are parenting and raising children who've had quite complex childhoods. And we have met, Alison and I, because we are both members of the Global Academy, the CCFL, Creating Champions for Life Global Academy. And when we found each other in this amazing new group that's formed, we immediately realized that we had this common theme of wanting and using gentle parenting ourselves with our own children, but also in the work that we do with parents. And so it made really good sense for us to get together and explore our journeys. My son is now 23, nearly 24, so I've been on a wibbly-wobbly journey with gentle parenting, a journey of huge discovery. And of course, Alison is, her children are much younger, aren't they, Alison? So we thought it would be fun and maybe interesting for people to look at both ends of it and also what's in the middle.
For sure. So yeah, as Jane mentioned, my children are young. I have a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old, so things are still busy around here. But gentle parenting has been something that I've been focused on since the beginning. Obviously, learning a lot along the way, still learning, still making lots of mistakes. You know, I won't lie, it can be tough in the beginning because it's a lot of groundwork. It's a lot of looking at my own beliefs and my own parenting experiences as a child being parented. So it's been a big time investment too. So emotional investment, time investment. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from you, Jane, a little bit later in our conversation about the long-term payoffs, because I see some short-term payoffs right now, but I'll be honest, it does feel like it's a really front-loaded approach to parenting. Before we get into that, how about we talk a little bit about what gentle parenting is to each of us and what kind of just describing it a little bit so that people know if we're on the same page.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. For me, gentle parenting is, well, I'm known for saying this a great deal, it's always got to be about kindness and compassion, which, as you say, Alison, is a big ask in the day-to-day process of raising a child. It's very emotional, stressful business. And you know, remembering that if you're not talking to your child kindly and with compassion, it's actually better not to do it. It's a massive ask. But for me, that's what it looks like. It looks like when your child has just knocked their milk over, that you are calming yourself down so that you can come in and talk to them in a kind, respectful way, in order to deal with the milk, deal with what's happened. Maybe they were just wriggling and jiggling in their chair and it got knocked over, and you'd already asked them, oh, could you maybe sit still, my lovely, you know, because we've got milk on the table, and they didn't, and it got knocked over. So at that moment, it's very difficult to think, oh, I will be gentle and kind now my child has done the very thing that but that's the challenge. But to me, that's where it's all at. You know, we're working towards it always, we're not always going to get it right, and it is sometimes going to feel like a really, really big ask. But in my experience of having done both take the same amount of time. So telling them off, putting them down from the table, maybe giving them a consequence can actually take a lot longer and just as much emotional energy. And then you have all the emotional fallout to deal with from the child, which can go on, well, for the rest of the day, really. So it's, yeah, there's no easy shortcuts, but this in the long run will make you and your child feel so much healthier and happier together as a unit, I think.
Yeah, make some really good points there. In having been focused on this approach since the beginning with my kids, I haven't known any differently from a parenting perspective. So realizing that it takes as much energy and time and all of that it's kind of a relief for me to realize that, okay, it's not just I'm struggling with this because this is hard. It's the nature of what it is. So the fact that I'm investing time in something that I know long term is going to have beneficial effect on everyone, and in the short term makes us all feel better about being in the same space together is encouraging. So
absolutely.
For me, my take on gentle parenting is very similar. I use the term empathy, which I think in this case describes what you're describing with the compassion. So the empathy is not just trying to see it from their point of view, but letting them know. And so I'm always trying with my kids to let them know that I hear what they're saying. Of course, sometimes I have to catch myself that, am I just saying it out of habit? Oh, I hear what you're saying, but listen to me anyway. I have to keep recommitting to honestly listening and authentically feeling what it is that they're going through or trying to understand. Connection is a huge one, and I think if we're honestly trying to understand where they're coming from and to be kind and gentle, then that connection is naturally going to grow. But there are also tons of ways that we can foster that connection together. And ultimately, that connection is what leads to our long-term influence, which I'm sure you've seen with your son. So can you tell me a little bit about how the relationship you developed in the younger years has kept you being the strong influence in his life?
Yes, I think that was the realization for me that I tried some harsher forms of parenting. You know, I came to it in a very muddled way because I'm quite a bit older than you. The parenting that was of my time when I was a child was much more about punishments. It was, much more about controlling children and being, do as you're told type of thing. And so I brought that into this relationship with my child, but it felt really a mismatch for the love that I had for him. And I didn't read any of this stuff. I literally had to go look under stones, bushes, cupboards, everything, until I found something that began to fit with me and my baby and my boy. And that was exactly what you're saying. It was prioritize the relationship. So that often has been the times when, I felt that really burning anger about something, jumping in and thinking, how will this be a wedge then between my son and I? And if it will, then, I don't want that. That's the last thing I want. So that's sometimes how I think about it when I'm struggling, even with a 23-year-old, there's obviously still challenges. But as you say, what we have, because we've built this strong emotional connection, and, that's what is so important, that's kept us together through some really, really, really bad times. Sometimes we haven't had the words, but we've just been together or sat together or, reconnected emotionally in some way, shape, or form. Just a hug, a look has got us through those times, because it can be very lonely being a child and very lonely certainly being a teenager. So if they have that inner sense of how much they matter to us, I just think that's what you're building now with your little ones. You know, oh, I can do things wrong, I can stuff up, but actually, Mummy she still offers me that emotional connection. She accepts the whole of me. And, you know, I mean, I've said and shown to my child over and over again that this is not conditional. You know, whatever you bring before me, I will find a way to accept it, live with it, be with it, because you are far more important than anything you can ever do. Good or bad, actually.
Yeah. So, yeah, I totally get that, and it's amazing how aligned our beliefs are around parenting. We haven't known each other a whole long time, less than a year, but it's definitely been really neat to see my own beliefs reflected so strongly by someone else that I respect. So that's awesome. So I hear you saying that the connection is really the important part. The relationship is much more important than the other things.
Yeah, that's totally it. It's when you think about using incentives or rewards and consequences, they are all things that get in the way of your relationship with your child because they are a condition. You know, I will reward you because I have decided that you've done something good. And that just blocks your view. It blocks the back and forth between you and your child. That should just be a given. You know, no child should have to earn a parent's love and respect. It should just be there as a given and something that will never go away. Now, that doesn't mean there are times when we have to say, oh, you know, the hitting or the pushing, that's not okay, is it? So we need to think about that. It's, you know, there's always got to be lessons and learning because you and I are very focused on raising respectful, great members of society who will carry this on, this kindness, compassion, empathy out into the world. It's not just about what happens in our family home,
Exactly.
It's about our community and society. So obviously they have to know that, you know, there are certain behaviours that are just part of being in society, but you can deliver them so much better when you have that strong emotional connection and that sense in the child that they know that they are acceptable. They don't have to do anything, they just have to be in the room, and they don't, you know, whatever happens, whether they knock the milk over, don't knock the milk over, there's that same level of acceptability as a human being.
Yeah, I agree. It's like we're laying the foundation of the relationship, which will then allow us to help them learn what's appropriate, to be open to correction, to be open to us and our guidance, and without having that strong trust and that strong connection, I don't see it as being very effective and very long term. So it feels to me, and it has for a while now, that it just feels like a lot of work up front, and a lot of repetition, and a lot of dealing with our own emotions and figuring out our own triggers and how to handle those so that we can be completely present for our kids and available to them emotionally, and to show our love as unconditionally as we can. So it just feels like there's a lot of that groundwork early on. Sorry about that. We've got company coming, and I couldn't reschedule it because they're from out of town. So you might hear my kids getting a little bit excited here for a minute. So, so the where was I? So the unconditional part, right?
Yeah.
You know, it feels like it feels like a lot of giving early on, and right now I feel like I'm coming out of the woods with it. They're 4, they're 5. We've been over the concepts a lot. We've done a lot of the groundwork. So I'm starting to see some immediate benefits. I see my kids looking to resolve problems with each other, and the relationship between them as siblings that are together all the time. You know, they do have some spats and things, but I see them as valuing the relationship with each other first and foremost. So they mess up, they apologize, and I'm starting to be able to take a step back and trust them that they already know that, and that their intention is to maintain that relationship. So I'm starting to see some of the benefits, but I know so much of parenting you don't see until years, decades down the road. So I'd love to hear a little bit from you of the benefits that you're seeing now that he's an adult from that groundwork that you've laid.
Yeah, I think the benefits are there all along. It's just we're so busy doing it that we maybe don't realize them at the time. I think the benefits as an adult is that I can spot when things are not right in his life, so I know when to reach out to him. I hope that I'm his go-to person, when he hits bumps in the road. Mm-hmm. It's always complicated, relationships are, but I think we just have this unspoken, strong force between us that we know when each other needs a bit of help. We're in each other's corner, not in a big way because he has his own life. I mean, he's a young man, he has his own relationship, his own life going on. But I suppose I always like to think that if you build this kind of relationship, you are the docking station. So, as they get older, they should start to move out a bit into life. And he did. He went away to university. Our contact was obviously not so intense. But yeah, they come back. They hover around. They go off, do their thing, and they come back, and they can lay whatever in front of you, and your message to them always is, well, okay, so we can sort this. We have a saying between us where the only thing we can't sort is health, and everything else we can sort it out. There'll be a way. There'll always be a way. So that's been the thing that I've said to him over and over again. Don't ever think that there's anything that I will judge you for. And I see him as a young man who has and does overcome some huge things in his life. I have no idea. I don't know that I would ever have overcome what he has. Some very complex health needs in his life, and he has his moments, but mostly he gets over them and gets on. And I do think that comes from having this solid foundation, this one person, as he has in his life, who is just always there for him emotionally, never mind in any other practical ways. Yeah. And what an amazing feeling that must be to just know that. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to particularly do anything very spectacular, to be honest. You can choose what you want to do for you in life, not to keep someone else happy. And I think that's so important for our children, because then by virtue of that, you do grow up with better mental health, with a better outlook, with more compassion. So the knock-on effects are just huge.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because I think as parents, we all want that for our kids. But we question whether what we're doing will lead to that. And I know it seems like decades, parents have been taught that you have to punish in order to learn a lesson, or you need to control them because otherwise they will control you. And a lot of these messages that were founded in guesses, best guesses, or just society's habits. And now that we are learning so much more about how kids learn and what environments work best for them to learn in, and what they ultimately need long-term for long-term gains, we now know better. And so I'm so glad that I'm not the only one out there trying to share this message. I think it's fantastic what you're doing, not just for kids who have experienced trauma, but for the average kid with the average parent who's just trying to do right by their kids and help them be resilient and loving and compassionate and successful. So yeah, it's so awesome that we got to chat. I know we'll be chatting again very soon, and hopefully we can record a few more conversations. What we can do is we can list just below the video when we publish it. We can list our websites where they can find us, if they're looking for some support or some information and resources. And we can let people know about the Academy. I know that we share the same passions and same mission as the other experts in the Academy, and everyone's there trying to do the same thing for people.
Yeah, that's great, Alison. I've really enjoyed talking with you, and I hugely admire you for, you know, using gentle parenting with 2 children, not just with 1. It is the hardest thing that we ever do, and it's so emotional, and depending on what we bring as adults into it, so, you know, how fragile we are, how any trauma that we've experienced as children, the minute that you become a parent, that will come to the forefront, and it will be switched on, and it can be, you know, even more of an emotional journey because it brings up all that stuff from our own childhoods at that point as well. So, you know, that can be quite a shock, I think, for some parents, that they've processed a lot of stuff, maybe had a lot of counselling, they've worked really, really, really hard on themselves, done an amazing job, and then they have a baby, and it's suddenly like, whoa, all this stuff comes up, which of course relates them back to how you were parented, because
it does.
That you know, were very big deals for your parents, quite rightly at the time, can, if we're not careful, be a big deal when we're parenting our children. It can be the things that press our buttons. So there's nothing easy about any parenting, but, you know, gentle parenting will raise gentle, emotionally well children who will go out and do incredible things in the world, which I know is what we want.
So true. So true. So I can't wait to connect with some of the people that are watching and see how we can work together to help them with what they're needing. So best of luck on all of your exciting new projects coming up, Jane. Thanks so much for talking today.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure.